Hello and welcome to WhatCulture Wrestler and myself, Andrew Pollard. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of that good stuff. But most importantly, as you can see today, we have Mr. Eric Young with us to talk, well, all things Impact, most importantly, to talk about all things Slammiversary, live on Fight TV on Sunday, the 19th of June, going after the world title that you've held twice before, of course, from Mr. Josh Alexander. So, EY, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Thanks. Again, thanks for coming and giving us some time to talk to us. A busy man doing lots of interviews, I'm sure, ahead of that fight against the walking weapon. What can we expect from this? Because from what I gather, yourself and Josh Alexander have only been in the ring once together, which was the recent six-man, which obviously by design were victorious because they always are. What can we expect from this one-on-one match for yourself and Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story because, I mean, the reality is our paths are very linear and very similar. Both grew up and born and raised in Southwestern Ontario. Both short, fat kids growing up, crazy wrestling fans. And I was kind of winding down my independent career and moving to Nashville to pursue Impact and TNA, and he was just kind of starting. So, you know, and we had crossed paths a few times when he was young, but we have never, ever wrestled, been on several shows together, but never wrestled, never shared a ring before. You know, I think Josh would say, you know, I'm, you know, a person that kind of, you know, laid a path for him. Not that other people hadn't did it, but you know, he was wrestling with people that broke in with me and would, you know, go to shows that I was on. And I feel like I didn't lay the path, but I illuminated it, saying, look at, you know, it is possible for you living in Southwestern Ontario, having no background in wrestling and no relatives in it, or, you know, whatever. Yeah, it can be done. And I think he would probably say that. And I think he's probably as excited as me, you know, because you hear about this guy, this young kid, and now working with him at Impact, and he's putting on these insane matches, you know, is right now in the world is one of the hottest commodities bell to bell in the world. And the honor and the responsibility to share a ring with someone like that is not something that I take lightly. It's actually something that I crave. You know, the pursuit of that, the responsibility and the kind of like the position of it is something that I'm addicted to. And I cannot wait for June 19th. And Josh, I will say the same as me is, you know, when you watch Slammiversary on June 19th, there will be no mistaking. It will be something that people will talk about for a long time. And it's something that we will both be proud of. And it'll be something where it's very clear that nothing was left behind. You know, everything will be put into this because of the position, because of the history, because of the lineage, because of, you know, the responsibility for both of us to provide something special, and we will. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you. Obviously, the pair of you are two badass Canadians. I didn't realize you were quite from the kind of the rough same neck of the woods.
Grew up an hour away from each other. I mean, obviously different age, and like I said, I was on my way out of the province and moving to the United States when he was kind of starting out, but very similar paths.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Alexander, so obviously we'll talk about yourself a lot, but Josh Alexander, for me, the first time I saw him on, I think it still would have been maybe the tail end of TNA, when he turned up in the North anyway, and it's like, man, this guy's good. Obviously him and All Eagle, Ethan Page were great together, and then it's the single swimmer breaking out as a singles, and then the dude, like you said, he's just been killing it, knocking out of the park week after week, pay-per-view after pay-per-view, having his kind of the briefest of brief cups of coffee in the big time with the world title, and then finally the journey to get it back. I guess there must be I guess like the Canadian pride there as well, where it's just good to see another guy doing well and stepping up, and like you said, very legitimately being one of the best on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the there's something in the water in Canada. I don't know what it is, but the fact there's more people living in the state of California than in the entire country of Canada, it being such a massive country, people just assume there's this huge population, but it's just not true. It's 3/4 of the population is in that little sliver at the bottom of southwestern Ontario where me and Josh grew up. And, having people like Brett and Owen and Edge and Christian and, Benoit at the time. And obviously he's forgotten for the right reasons and somebody I don't particularly want to talk about because of who he became and what he did. But there's a huge history of pro wrestling in Canada. And, you can look to any major company right now. There's Canadians all over it. And it's really cool to see. I'm proud to be born and raised there. I'm proud to live in the United States now. I love living in this country. It's provided me an absolutely amazing life, living my dream as a professional wrestler, and without being able to live here and how this company or how this country works and the opportunities that are available to you is amazing. But make no mistake, if you see a Canadian on one of these television shows, they are the best of the best, and they had to work extra hard because it is not easy. It is not easy.
Yeah, and like you said there, the names you touched on, there's always that comparison of like, well, if he's a Canadian, we've seen Bret Hart, and Bret Hart to me is the greatest wrestler of all time. So is he going to, the expectation goes like, well, are they going to be like Bret? Are they going to be like Owen? Are they going to be Edge, Christian, Kenny Omega, your good self, Bobby Roode? It's just this, it is, like you said, something in the water. But in terms of the pride, this will be your eighth Slammiversary, I believe. When you look back at the previous 7 matches, is there one that stands out the most? Will it be the triple threat, the cage match for world title defense, maybe 2014?
Yeah, that one was really special. That was one of those things that happened by happenstance. It was booked. It was supposed to be me and MVP, and he got really hurt. A very good friend of mine, a guy I respect a great deal, but in the end, him being hurt was going to be, a really hard row to hoe because of the physicality that we were going to have to provide in a cage, and having Bobby Lashley and Austin Aries, two guys that I respect to the ends of earth. And, in ring, Austin is in my opinion, one of the best to ever do it. And Bobby Lashley, an absolutely gifted physical freak, and being able to be in Dallas for that and be, the world champion coming in and defending my belt. And I feel that was one of my kind of flag moments in my career, saying like, there are lots of people, and people still to this day question me as a world champion, and that's fine. It's art, and everyone's got their opinions, and I'm not swayed by it. I am one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world. And that's how I view myself, and you will never change my mind. And that match, I think, was kind of like this kind of flag planting moment for me, saying, like he's been a comedy guy and he's done this and he's done that, but he's a legitimate world champion and can provide these 5-star moments and 5-star matches with no matter who he's in there with. There was no story going into that match. The match was me and MVP. So there's no emotional connection to that. It's just, okay, now you're wrestling these two guys, and it's just about the match and holding on to the world title. And I feel the three of us nailed it. And it's something that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah. And what's it like these days? Because your history with Impact goes back to, with TNA and TNA as it was at the time in 2004. So it's 18 years. What's it like now to be one of the more senior figures, the mentors, the locker room leader, I guess, in a way, the person that people go to seek advice, like, right, I need some assistance on this. I need to get some of these thoughts on this. Where's EY?
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm not super vocal about it. I think if someone asks me something, that I tell them. For me, I'm going to lead by setting an example, and that's with how I conduct myself, how I carry myself, how I perform, how I show up ready to work on time, how I deal with people, how I interact with people that are above me and below me. That's my leadership. That's how I do it. I'm not a super rah guy. I'm not gonna get up on the pulpit and tell them this is how it's done and you should listen to me, because the reality is there is no one way in pro wrestling, and it is an art form, and people will laugh at that, and that's fine, but it is, and it's $1 billion industry, and it's an amazing way to make a living, and everyone's got their own way of doing it and their own path. And if they ask me, in my opinion, is something I like or don't like, I'll tell them. And I'm in a position where I don't have to sugarcoat anybody for any reason. I get to say and do what I feel is right. And it's a cool place to be, man. It's something that I've earned, but it's not lost on me that it's a really cool place to be.
Yeah. One of the cool elements of Slammiversary, which again, Sunday the 19th of June, live on Fight, is it's 20 years to the day since NWA TNA's very first ever show, the first episode, the weekly pay-per-views. And yourself, like I said, you got involved 2 years later. It would be your bow in TNA as it was at the time. Given the landscape of professional wrestling back then, with obviously WWE, it was WWE at that point, they'd eaten all the competition, they'd hoovered up anything. Did you realistically think, man, this NWA TNA thing, this is going to be going in 18 years' time? Because here we are. It's a hell of a lifespan for the company.
Yeah, I don't know if even the people running the company, I think if you asked Jeff, if you would have said to him, do you think it's around in 2022? And he would have said, I have no idea. Because the reality is it's the fledgling company, the money it costs, and the work, like the amount of work and the amount of hustle and sacrifice that has to be done to get us something like that off the road. Because like you said, the WWE, WWF at the time or whatever had monopolized the business. They had everything, and everyone watched that, and there was nothing else out there. So, at no point, even when this company was pretending there was a Monday Night War, we've never been in competition with them. They're on another level. It's generational. It's grandfathers, fathers, sons. It's been around for hundreds of years. 40 plus years of Monday Night Raw or whatever it is. It's not something that kind of a fan base and that kind of a following cannot be cultivated in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It takes a lifetime. And the company, for sure, like I've been here for a lot of that time, and it's had ups and downs, but I can say from coming back from Slammiversary 2 years ago, it's all been positive momentum. It's the numbers on TV, they can dip and they can drop and then go up and then drop. And that's just the nature of television. That's the nature of ratings. But money is accrued and viewership is accrued in a 40 different ways now. It's not just about television ratings. It has a massive digital presence. It has now a growing worldwide presence. Like I know I spent a bunch of time over there, and we're hoping to get back on TV in the United Kingdom and all the other places as well. Yeah. And it's cool being part of something that was definitely had a foothold in the industry, but that foothold grows and grows and grows and grows kind of week to week. And it's, Scott D'Amore is owed a huge amount of respect. Anthem Sports is owned a huge amount of respect. Access TV, a huge amount of respect, because they let us do our thing and they don't get in the way. And the roster, of just this amazing men and women that everyone's doing their own thing. We're all our own business, but it's a really tight-knit group, and everyone is pulling the rope in the right direction. Yeah. Everybody that understands it truly understands that if I want to do well, Impact has to do well first. And it's the best locker room I've ever been part of, best company I've ever worked for. And it's not even close, if I'm being completely honest. And have I made more money other places, and have I had more exposure other places? Absolutely. But would I trade that things for what I have now? I don't think I would, man. I don't think I would. This is the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, you touch right there. Since you returned, you've been kicking all kinds of ass, but like just the product as a whole, like anybody that will listen, I'll always be like, man, you need to be checking out Impact, because there is yourself, there's Violent by Design, there's Josh Alexander, there's Deonna Purrazzo, who's just been on a tear for a good few years now. Tasha Steele's obviously, of course, now. Jordan Grace, Matt Cardona's come in. The Briscoes are in these days. Jay White popped. It's just that Moose obviously went on that great run as the top guy. It's W. Morrissey reinventing himself into a complete beast. So yeah, it's if anyone's sleeped on Impact out there, get on that. Get on Fight TV on the 19th of June to watch Slammiversary, because there is so much going on. But with Violent by Design, obviously Rhino was a part of the group until towards the end of last year and got unceremoniously kicked out. Is there anybody else maybe you've got your eye on to bring into the fold? Someone that you think like, yeah, they'd be a nice addition?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably above my pay grade, man. I don't think about it too much. It's cool because they do ask, my opinion, and the Rhino thing was kind of broached to me about it, and I thought it would be a cool storytelling element. Obviously, a guy that's just been over forever. Just been crazy over forever, and a person I've known for years, and a guy that I really respect. And I thought we did some really cool stuff there. As far as other people, like there were some thoughts and some ideas floated all the time, but my opinion right now is we have been a thing for, a year and a half, but we're really just scratching the surface with the three of us. And I would keep it just the three of us for now and for the foreseeable future until we get a real foothold. I feel like we're definitely a massive part of the show. I think we're definitely established as a pretty successful stable in the wrestling world, but there's I believe with the three guys that were on the, Diener and Joe Doring, we're just scratching the surface of what we can be. And there's so many cool stories that can be told. And I'm just thinking about that right now.
Yeah. No need to add people just for the sake of adding people. If it's right and it makes sense, do it. And yeah, Ryan, I remember seeing him for the first time on like Bravo TV here in the UK on ECW, and it's just like terrifying when he was just wrecking people. Like God, and to be fair,
he's a one of one.
Yeah,
he's a one of one.
It's the dude's still doing it now. What 20 would have been about 23 years later for when I first saw him. And yeah, God, good luck to him. I mentioned Jay White then. Briscoes have come in, obviously, but Jay White, Girls of Destiny, the Good Brothers, the whole Bullet Club thing. We've seen Tomohiro Ishii appearing from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Is there anybody, because obviously there's the whole multiverse now, that was a thing. Is there anyone you look at in New Japan Pro Wrestling and think, yeah, I'd love to slap him in the face?
Yeah, I mean, there's the list is long. Like, I've shared the ring with Tanahashi before, a guy that I respect a great deal. I would love that opportunity again. When it would be more important, like he was just kind of starting out and I was kind of middle of the road at that point. So I think there could be something really special there. Naito is another guy that I respect a great deal. He was in TNA years ago and a really cool guy and a really super talented person. And I don't think even him would have guessed he became the success that he became. The Forbidden Door, the multiverse, or whatever you want to call it. It's a really cool time to be in the business because there is, for two or three of the companies, there are no rules, and in my opinion, it's the way it should always be. There's good business can be done and it can be beneficial to everybody. So opening that door again is something that I would love to run through. And I've spent, some time in Japan, but I really wanted to, sink my teeth and go back and do a prominent tour, be part of something over there that allows me to be there a bunch of time. And I love my time there, but it has been very limited. I haven't been as often as I'd like, and I would love to go back.
Yeah. When Okada was in TNA as it was then, did you guys realize like how talented that guy had the potential to be? Because I mean, it's fair to say, obviously, it's a very different Kazuchika Okada to what we've seen for the last, I guess, 10 years or more. And you look back at that and think, oh, maybe they've done more of him. But obviously, he was still very much a young boy learning his trade. But could you see then, like, yeah, this guy's got something. If he can get it right, he's going to explode.
Yeah, I think Alex Shelley was telling anybody that would listen, because he knows him and knows that product very well. I think me and other people, like, you could tell that he got it, you could tell that he understood, but I don't think even he knew, the level of star that he was going to become, and you know, the level of matches that he was going to be putting on. You know, like probably 3 or 4 of the top 10 matches over the last 5 or 6 years involve him. You know, he's a superstar and an absolutely gifted physical performer. It's just wrestling here is different. You know, it does involve other things that, because of the language barrier and because of how they're trained and how they view wrestling, it's harder for them to be that and become that. It's not that there's not storytelling there. It's just the storytelling there is much different than the storytelling here. It's like athlete versus athlete. You know, it has nothing really to do with good guy, bad guy. And it's just about the match and winning and competition and being the best. And that's fine. That's fine. I love, you know, I can remember being a kid and sending money that I made cutting grass to some guy that I didn't know in California to send me Super J cups and All Japan Pro Wrestling and FMW tapes, because I just craved it. I couldn't get enough of it because it was so different. But yeah, I mean, I think even if you were to ask him in that moment, he probably wouldn't have guessed for himself. And that's often how it happens. You know, it's about persistence and it's about right time, right place, and doing the right things over and over and over and proving your worth. And he did that. And it's a really cool thing to see. I think I beat him a couple of times, which is a cool feather for me. I couldn't tell you 100% because, like I said, my memory is terrible, but I know we've worked several times, and I'm pretty sure I got a couple pinfalls over him and Tanahashi both. Oh, obviously, nice. Very, very different professionals at that point if they were losing to Eric Young at that time.
I mean, maybe we can add Josh Alexander to this list after Slammiversary and maybe 1 or 2 more matches. But when you look back across your spells with Impact, is there someone that jumps out as a favorite opponent? I mean, you've had so many great matches over the years in whatever role you've been in. And I mean, Bobby Roode, Robert Roode jumps out, James Storm, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, Sting, Jeff as well. Is there anyone that jumps out as like, yeah, that's the guy. That was the guy I enjoyed it the most with?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Bobby Roode would probably be my favorite. I think he's right now is one of probably the most underrated guys in the world. I think he's the perfect pro wrestler. He's a friend of mine, and it's going to sound biased, but I've wrestled everybody, you know, I mean, like you name it. I've shared a ring with them, and it's nothing against other people. Like we talked about that 3-way between Bobby and Austin and me is one of my favorite matches of all time. Me and Bobby versus AMW Victory Road years and years ago was unbelievable for a bunch of reasons. Me and Bobby Last Man Standing at Wembley is probably my favorite TNA match, Impact match of all time. Me versus Eddie Edwards, when I was unaware that I had a torn ACL. I wrestled Eddie Edwards on one leg, and I would put that match against any match for any company anywhere in the world for any time era. I think it was really special. Me and Rich Swann, I think, was another really good piece of business and a really, really good piece of storytelling, something that I'm very proud of. And he's one of those guys, like, I could wrestle him every week and be happy about it for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's off the top of my head. Obviously, you know, wrestling Sting as a person that idolized him, grew up watching him, wrestling him in like his first match back after 10 years away was surreal. Wrestling Kurt Angle, I think at that time. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but he was physically really beat up at the time. And he got better after, but in that moment, it was really beat up. And me and his match at, it might even have been Slammiversary. I can't remember, but it was a Last Man Standing, and he couldn't. They said he can't take bombs. He can't shoot him off the ropes. He had all these limitations, and nobody said the match sucked. And that to me is a massive feather in my cap. And I had to do all the heavy lifting, and I was happy to do it because Kurt was so giving, such a professional, such an amazing dude, and just an unbelievable talent. So sharing a ring with him was a huge honor. Beating him in like in a Falls Count Anywhere match at the Impact Zone is probably one of my fondest memories. Choking him with a prosthetic leg sounds crazy, but it did happen. It did happen. That picture surfaces every now and then. It's fun, man. But yeah, it's a long list, and there's a million that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I mean, this is just this run going back to, I mean, Team Canada, Super EY, you pairing up with ODB, which is just the app that was made for gold for television. There's the whole going up against the main event Mafia. There's obviously the first world title. There's the return, the second world title, the Violent by Design. Up and down the card, winning every title, literally every title there is to win, even the Knockouts title. It's like Eric Young can and has shown that he's one of the most versatile wrestlers in the modern era. Why do you think that is? Like, just the openness, is it, to, okay, they want me to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it the best I possibly can, regardless of where it is?
I think it's kind of always been my number one skill. And like when I'm being in Team Canada, I was begging them, like, just give me a character, give me a gimmick of some kind. Because my gimmick was I didn't say anything and I was from Canada. You know, that was my gimmick. And that was fine for a couple of years, but I wanted more. And I wanted creatively, I love to sink my teeth into whatever it is. So then I had never done comedy wrestling ever before, never, ever in my life. I didn't know if I could, but I thought I could, and I would give it a try. And I say this to guys that ask, what do you think about this? What if they want me to do that? I said, whatever they give you, dive into it head first, because all you're doing is you're creating equity for yourself in showing them that they think that you can do it, or they wouldn't ask you if they didn't think you could. And you saying, yeah, I can do that, and then doing it solidifies that you're a professional, solidifies that you're a talent, and solidifies that whatever it is that they're wanting you to do and they think you can do, you can do it. And I'm sure there's been a lot of other wrestlers that have seen it from a bunch of different angles, but I think, off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that has done the different amount of things that I've done ever in the history of wrestling. And I've said it in promos, and I mean it. There's, being in a position like me, you have to be confident in what you do. And I would put me as being one of the best all-around performers ever in the history of the business. And that's going to sound cocky, and that's fine, but it's you have to have self-belief, and I do. And then my track record proves it.
Yeah. We're going to bring this back to Slammiversary 2022, but one question I couldn't not ask, one topic I couldn't not ask you about is the time in NXT. How was that to sit under the learning tree of William Regal in particular?
Yeah, awesome. Another guy that I got along with very well. Pretty hands-on guy, would only get involved and tell you something if it's something that he truly believed. Was critical of Sanity, but in a good way, because he wanted us to do well with, the Damo being from Ireland and Wolf being German. That's, there's the European connection between those guys, and Nikki, obviously. So yeah, it was something that, he was an ally of ours, and that's really cool as a guy that I respect. Like, there's very few people I respect more than him, and a guy that I loved. Even when I was young, and I didn't like that he was from another country and he was an aristocrat and whatever, and that was his gimmick, but I knew that he was talented and loved. I couldn't get enough William Regal footage. I consumed it. I consumed everything. I was like addicted to it.
Yeah, and again, like yourself, very much a versatile performer that can go and do whatever you want him to do. You want him to go out and pop a crowd with babyface comedy, and he'll do it. You want him to be the sniveling heel. He can be the best in the business. If you plug him into a main event program, you have him load up. Obviously, nobody's got a bad thing to say about his lordship, and obviously it's great to see him killing it at the moment on AEW television. With the whole Sanity group, which obviously killed it in NXT, got the main roster call up, and it seemed like you barely got an opportunity. That must be so. I mean, it's not here to kind of poop all over the WWE, because we're here to talk about Impact. But that must be so frustrating when you get the call like, yeah, we're not really going to do much, and then actually we're going to split you up. EY, you're on your own over to Raw, I think it was at the time.
Yeah.
After putting in those good few years of work to get to where you did, that must be a bit of a kick in the backside a little bit.
Yeah, definitely frustrating. And like I said earlier, we're not the first people he missed on. I always point out, like, Kenny Omega might be the best bell-to-bell wrestler over the last 10 years. He didn't last 6 months. So, I lasted a lot longer than him. So, and it's I don't think it's ever anything personal. I think sometimes it could be looked at that, but I don't think it was. It's just a victim of circumstance. And he just decided that he didn't like Killian and didn't like Wolf, and he sent them back to NXT, and he liked me and he wanted me to go to Raw and we'd think up something, and kind of just nothing ever happened. I was never given an opportunity to show him what I could do. And I went and met with him and pitched some ideas that he kind of liked and was pretty receptive. And I told him, I just said, like, look, man, if you can't find 10 minutes for me to do something, then you're failing. You're failing yourself and you're failing your company. I said it to his face and I'd say it again. And I don't believe that had anything to do with me being released. I think they just decided they wanted to cut down the roster, and I was a victim of circumstance. I wasn't doing anything and making a pile of money to sit at home. And I knew that it was coming. I didn't want to admit it, but I think it was no surprise to me. And I'm a believer in fate. I've got it tattooed under my right arm. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, which is back in Impact Wrestling, absolutely killing it. Ahead of this big conversation with Josh Alexander at Slammiversary on Sunday, the 19th of June on Fight TV. Make sure to order that pay-per-view. Away from your match, if there's one other match because it's an absolutely stacked card. I mean, we've got the first ever Queen in the Mountain. There's the Ultimate X match, which they're always just insane to watch. There's the tag match between the Good Brothers and the Briscoes, and also there's of course the Impact Originals. With this time as we're recording this, there's still two to be announced competitors in that match on the Impact side against Honor No More. But which one of those matches are you most got your eye on thinking, yeah, that's gonna be a great I mean, they all have the potential to be great matches.
Yeah, for me, the one that sticks out top of my head right now is the Ultimate X. It's such a singular event that was created by Impact Wrestling, by TNA Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett, and the management then came up with this. What I think probably looked at the time is just kind of insane idea. It kind of took like what we thought and viewed ladder matches as kind of like the next level of that. And that's just the way the wrestling business is. It progresses and it evolves. And I think a lot of like really cool moments have come out of Ultimate X matches, and the group of guys that are in there. It would not surprise me if it's match of the night. I'm going to do everything in my power to make that not true. Yeah, but it would not surprise me whatsoever.
It's a tough act to follow, the Ultimate X, man. Every single time there's all these matches, it's like somebody does something even more nuts. Like I just always goes back to Elix Skipper doing. It's like. Yeah. I
was there.
Yeah, it's just absolutely nuts. Last question, just to wrap things up then, Eric. If you could right now go back to your younger self, say 2004, when you just arrived in NWA TNA as it was then, what advice would you give to young EY?
Don't worry about things that you can't control and just keep moving forward. And I feel all young wrestlers deal with this and get wrapped up in the politics of it and, this and that. In the end, you can only control your performance, and you can only give what they allow you to give. And I think a lot of wrestling fans have to realize that. Like, there's times when it's not your position to have the best match on the show, because you don't have time. You have 8 minutes, and that's just the way it goes. It's would I love to have 40 minutes and have match of the night every single show? Yes, but sometimes those aren't the cards that are dealt to you. And I would say, as a wrestling fan, a person that still is a fan of wrestling and wrestling fans now, is try not to think about it too much. Just try to enjoy it. And that's I think what I would tell my younger self is, try not to think about it too much. Just enjoy it. Early on, that was harder for me. But over the last probably 10 or 12 years, I don't worry too much, man. I don't worry about much of anything, which is a really good position to be.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving up so much time. We've cracked on for nearly about half an hour now, so this should be a fun chat. Eric, where can people keep up to date with you on the socials? That seems to be the thing these days.
Yeah, the socials. I'm the Eric Young on Twitter and the Eric Young IG on Instagram. Not a massive fan of social media. Look, it's an amazing tool, and it's an amazing way for people that want to consume things that I'm doing and see things I'm doing. I can get the word out. If you send me a message and I don't reply, it's nothing personal. I'm just a 40-year-old man with a wife and a life and a million things going on. I avoid social media when I can. It's a big enough part of my life already. So I'm not on there scouring and responding and AMAs and all this other stuff. It is an amazing tool, but don't take it personally. Eventually I'll probably get to it. And if I don't, then come to a show and talk to me then, and I'll talk to you, and you'll probably get annoyed with me. I'll probably be following you around, but yeah, that's where you can follow me on social. But Slammiversary is going to be special. If you're watching this and you're on the fence of getting it, get it, watch it, consume it. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, it's a stat card as it is, and there's still certain bits to be announced. So it's going to be one of the shows of the year, all being well. But yeah, be sure to follow us at WhatCulture WWE on Twitter. Follow myself if you want at Culture Left Peg on Twitter. I can't promise it's all that interesting. And of course, like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Eric Young, thank you very much, sir, for coming and giving up some time. I hope it goes well at the weekend for Slammiversary. I'm sure you'll absolutely kill it yourself and the walking weapon. And that's been it for us today at WhatCulture Wrestling. We will see you soon.